When David Tronnes found his wife dead in the bathtub, he immediately called 911 for help. Even though he struggled to talk through tears, suspicion quickly began to build around this heartbroken husband. Was he really racked with grief? Or was David Tronnes planning his defense from the moment he picked up the phone?
Hello?
She's not breathing. I'm trying to do CPR. I can't.
Okay, listen to me. Can you tell me what your address is?
I don't know. 218.
218 East Copeland? Okay. And who is it?
Copeland. This is David Tronnes.
Your name is Dan?
David.
Okay, your name is David? Okay, who is it that's not breathing?
My wife. I'm Shanti.
Your wife is not breathing? Okay. Sir, I need you to take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Listen to me. I'm going to get the paramedics so we can try and get her some help, okay? Don't hang up. Appointment. Okay, with the medical, we're also going. Okay, let's do a little fire department. What's the address of the emergency?
It's 218 East Copeland Drive.
218 East Copeland Drive. What's the telephone number you call me from?
This is 407-704. It's the house line.
Tell me exactly what happened. Okay, what happened?
I found her in the shower.
And she passed away? Listen. Wait, are you with her right now?
Yes.
How old is she?
39.
How old?
39.
Okay, is she awake right now?
No.
Is she breathing?
I can't wake her up. I can't wake her up.
Okay, listen. Is she breathing?
No, I tried to do CPR. I can't get her to breathe.
Okay. Can you get her out of the shower?
I can't. I pulled her out.
Okay. Is she laying flat on her back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you don't know what happened or when anything happened?
Oh.
Okay. Is there a defibrillator available?
A what?
Is there a defibrillator available?
No.
Okay.
No.
We can do CPR. Okay. Okay. We can do CPR on her until the paramedics get there.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I want you to lay her flat on her back, okay? And tilt her head back. Are they there with you?
Behind the wails of a grieving husband, David Tronnes was putting on a show for the 911 dispatchers. Tronnes also played ignorant, stating that he had no idea what had happened to his wife. It was April 24th, 2018. At around 4 p.m., David's wife, Shanti Cooper Tronnes, was unresponsive. David called 911, and when heard without true context, David Tronnes' call makes for a heart-wrenching listen. A husband desperate for help, a husband with no clue as to how his wife ended up dead in a half-filled bathtub. This call and the statements within would be David's most despicable lie. But sadly, these were not his first. Tronnes' web of deceit stretched back years, and later in the investigation, police would uncover some deeply disturbing truths about David Tronnes. For now, though, they had to determine what had happened to Shanti Cooper. When law enforcement arrived at the Orlando, Florida home, they were immediately suspicious of Tronnes, as Shanti's body was completely dry, as was the area surrounding her body. The entire bathroom, with the exception of the bathtub, which was filled approximately halfway with water, was dry as well. Police inspected the couple's bedroom, and while David Tronnes wanted everyone to believe that Shanti had very recently died, Shanti's blood had been on the bedroom floor long enough to dry. Another startling factor was that Shanti was found in her pajamas, a strange choice of attire for the middle of the day, but not an outrageous finding on its own. Shanti's watch, cell phone, and one earring were found on the bedside dresser. Shanti's other earring was still in her ear. This, along with the 39-year-old woman wearing pajamas at the time of her death, indicated that she was likely interrupted whilst preparing to go to bed for the night. Let's not forget, David Tronnes called 911 at approximately 4 p.m. Had Shanti Cooper died in the evening and not been found until the following afternoon? It was possible, though if Shanti had passed away whilst in the bath and David had only recently discovered her body, that body would still have been wet upon the arrival of law enforcement. David claimed that at the time of Shanti's death, he had been walking the family dogs. Police now had a puzzle on their hands, and the pieces were pointing to David Tronnes. The evidence at the Tronnes home was more than enough to motivate police to invite David Tronnes down to the local station. Tronnes, seemingly under the impression that his performance thus far had been taken as truth, accepted the invitation and went with the officers. It would soon be time for experts to examine Shanti's body, and the horrifying reality of how the 39-year-old really died would come to light. The autopsy confirmed that Shanti had passed away the evening prior, but this was not the result of drowning or even a slip and fall. Shanti Cooper had suffered significant blunt force trauma to the head, and she had been strangled. Her body showed no defensive wounds, supporting the theory that she had been interrupted or had been taken by surprise whilst dressing down for bed. Though this evidence now appears clear-cut, the results of the investigations took considerable time, and while police were figuring out the facts of this gruesome case, David Tronnes was busy fiddling funds. Less than 2 weeks after Shanti's death, the 50-year-old man moved the title of the home they owned into a trust that only he would have access to. Tronnes also transferred over $250,000 of Shanti's money to his own lawyers. The more police looked into David Tronnes, the more money became a clear motivator in not just Shanti's murder, but in almost every aspect of David and Shanti's relationship. The couple had initially met through the dating website Match.com. From the very beginning of this cursed love affair, David was in disguise, posing as a wealthy man with millions of dollars in the bank. This attracted Shanti, though the lifestyle she was soon to become accustomed to was almost the opposite of what she had signed up for. In reality, David Tronnes was not rich, though to make matters even worse, Tronnes was a cheapskate who forced Shanti to pay for almost everything in their relationship. This included the renovations on their home and far more than her fair share of the rent. David would reportedly complain whenever he was made to open his wallet, even showing annoyance when having to buy groceries. Shanti eventually figured out that she had bought the lie David Tronnes had sold her on the internet, but telling fibs about his finances was just one example of David's aversion to honesty. After Shanti's murder, a photo surfaced of David Tronnes visiting a male-only bathhouse. The 50-year-old had not only been lying to his wife about money, he had essentially been living a double life, having sexual relationships with men in secret. It was now clear that no word from the mouth of David Tronnes could be trusted, and police had all the evidence they needed to put the man in handcuffs. 4 months after Shanti's death, David Tronnes was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. While the evidence was piling up around him, David continued to stick with his story, even when Detective Barbara McClellan made it clear that the story wasn't just full of holes. It made no sense at all. "Your story is BS, so you'd better figure it out before it goes too far, because I'm telling you right now, nobody is going to believe that. Nobody. If you maintain that, you're going to look like a fool." The interrogation of David Tronnes went on for hours, as the accused killer continued to play the same grieving husband he had during the 911 call. At this stage, though, David Tronnes was convincing no one with his acting performance, and Detective Teresa Sprague eventually had enough of Tronnes' lies and let the man know that they weren't going to convince anyone. "You've fake cried for about 7 or 8 hours today. Not one tear came out of your eyes, not one. You have faked cried over this woman's death since we made contact with you. There is not a lick of remorse." Detective Teresa Sprague. Detective Sprague also revealed that when she suggested that Shanti had perhaps belittled David during their relationship, David responded by smirking. In another example of Tronnes' habit of pinching pennies, he claimed not to be able to afford a defense attorney. He was provided a public defender until investigators found out that Tronnes did in fact have enough finances to pay for his own lawyer. In 2021, David Tronnes' lawyers claimed that Tronnes was not fit to stand trial due to ongoing manifestations of the diagnosis of schizophrenia. Whether this was a stalling tactic remains unknown, though Tronnes was eventually found competent and will stand trial in June of 2023. While the details of this case appear straightforward, David Tronnes has not been found guilty of the murder of Shanti Cooper. If he really did kill his wife, though, what were his motivations? You will not be surprised to hear that in the eyes of many following the case, David Tronnes likely murdered Shanti for money. The now 54-year-old admitted during questioning that his wife had a life insurance policy worth $250,000 at the time of her death. For now, friends and family await the truth, and if David Tronnes is found guilty, justice will be long overdue. David Tronnes' double life is a frightening reminder that not all people are who they appear. Shanti Cooper shared her life with David for years and seemingly had no idea who the man she slept across from really was.